Shabbat Shalom. Welcome back to Take Time for Torah, 5 minutes with Rabbi Gaber. This week is Parshat Lekh. God says to Abram, go and get out of the land that you are living in and go to the new land that I will show you. Get out of your comfort zone, in other words. Go take a risk and make a new life for yourself. Be self-sustaining and build for yourself a life and a community. This Shabbat we celebrate Parshat Lekh. And in commemoration, the American Jewish World Service has established this Shabbat as Global Hunger Shabbat, to make us more aware of the many people around the world that face hunger. Last week I spoke about the food stamp challenge and how we could help the hungry here in our country. Now, if we broaden our focus through Jewish values, we can help the hungry around the world become self-sustaining. Maimonides teaches us that tzedakah, giving of tzedakah to others, is a very worthwhile and laudable goal. He says that but the highest form, he teaches, is not just giving, but it's teaching someone a skill so they can provide for themselves. And that's the message this week from Parshat Lekh. Abram had to provide for himself, and he did. He was well known as someone who would provide hospitality for others. He would go out of his way to give them the best food. And after one such occasion of providing hospitality, his guests asked him, what is it that we can do or say? And Abraham said that you could offer a blessing of thanksgiving. And he said, this is what you should say. Blessed be the everlasting God of the world, of whose bounty we have partaken. To be thankful for what we have, because he and his guests knew that in the harsh climate of the desert and the wilderness, food was difficult to come by. Sustenance was almost impossible to have on a regular basis, and hunger was very much part of the way of life. It continues to be the case in our world. There are many places around the world where people regularly go hungry, people who face hunger and who see it as part of their lives. And we have the power to stop it. Part of it is providing aid, but also it's taking Maimonides' teaching to heart, teaching people skills, and giving them the opportunity to provide for themselves. In recent years, as we have created a global economy, we have created free trade agreements. So in some ways, it's become cheaper to import staple goods to a country that's facing hunger than for farmers in that country to provide for themselves and for their community. It's become cheaper for food aid programs just to provide the necessary foodstuffs and not to wait for the farmers to grow it themselves. In a sense, that has put farmers out of business. So people are not able to provide for themselves and they become completely dependent, which means they become more susceptible to the whims of the weather and to the climate and to the world. And that's what we have the opportunity to help. We can make ourselves aware of how it is farmers can create sustainable, supportable agriculture for themselves and for their community. Food aid programs shouldn't just provide foodstuffs. They should help farmers and others in the community provide for themselves. And while free trade agreements are wonderful, most important, and to strengthen the world as a whole, is helping farmers and others living in a place where there is regular hunger, there is regular famine, to find ways to create sustainable food systems for themselves. American Jewish World Service is working on this. American Jewish World Service needs our help, for us to be aware, for us to advocate to our elected leadership, for us to advocate to our friends and our family, and for us to be continually aware that the way in which we help someone is not just to give, but to help teach them skills that they can use for a lifetime. The rabbis teach that feeding the hungry is actually more difficult to challenge than splitting the Red Sea or to provide redemption. And that's because feeding the hungry means also raising their self-esteem, helping them to feel at ease. In the Talmud, it's quoted that Rabbi Natan bar Abba, who shared the following statement of Rav, teaches, "The world is dark for anyone who depends on the table of others." In contrast, Rabbi Achai ben Yoshaya says, "When one eats of his own, his mind is at ease." This Shabbat, Let us make ourselves aware of global hunger and what we can do to create sustainable food systems. Let us find ways for us to ensure that people will not be dependent upon our tables, but they will find ways to be dependent upon their own tables so that their minds will be at ease. Shabbat Shalom. I look forward to seeing you next week. Bye-bye.